Say hello to the brand new Africa Twin. Welcome on stage, the brand new Africa Twin. Coming a long way just to see us, the brand new Africa Twin. This is the new Africa Twin, okay? In all seriousness, the Africa Twin is quite a rock star in the adventure motorcycling segment. I mean, this thing was born out of pure Dakarness. Honda was pretty much one of the only companies when they started going to Dakar in '86, I think. They had 4 victories in their first year, which was pretty much unheard of. Then 2 years later, they started actually producing the Africa Twin, and that went on until about 2003, when they killed it because of reasons. Then in 2016 they started production again with a brand new design, and this is the latest generation of that, the 2021 version. This bike has been on my to-do list for a very long time because I've always been very curious about the Africa Twin. Never ridden it, but all of that Dakarness that came with the name, it must be a good adventure bike. I mean, they've got so much experience in making it, which is exactly why I asked the nice people at Honda to lend it to me for a week, because I really want to know what it's all about. So if this is a bike that you're interested in, stick around and hear my experience after a week of riding it. Alright, this is the DCT version, the dual clutch transmission, basically an automatic bike. That was another thing I was very curious about. From what I've read, pretty much Honda is the only one that makes these, and they are becoming more and more popular. Okay, but first let's start with the motorcycling part of the motorcycle, the ergonomics. How do you sit on it? How comfortable is it? The seat has been changed from last year, which is great news, because even though it looks huge, it looks humongous. If you see it in a shop next to other bikes, it just looks very, very tall. But you can easily flat-foot it. The seat is a lot lower now for this year, and it's also narrower. So at 1.8 meters, 5'11", I am easily able to maneuver it in slow traffic or on off-road. The seat I've put now in the lower position, and I actually prefer the higher one. Your back is straight, the handlebars are in the perfect position, so your hands aren't contorted in some sort of very straight line, and there is a bit of an angle with your knees, but that also depends on, again, how tall you are and what position the seat is in. But all in all, great comfort for long distances, whether on-road, whether off-road. Honda's done a good job here. Where they haven't done such a good job, and again, my opinion, and I know on this specific point, I really am going against the masses here. The engine. I'm not a particular fan of this engine. It's not bad, it's not brilliant, I don't know, it's the type of engine that you would get if, I don't know, you send your mate down to the shop and ask them to get you a Coke or something, and then you would also go, oh, and just get me an engine as well. This is what he would come back with. It's a parallel twin, which by design makes it, how to explain this better? It vibrates when you put load on it. Yeah, when you're cruising along, it's fine, not a problem. You're not going to feel any vibrations in your hands, in your feet. But when you're putting load on the engine, when you're accelerating, it vibrates. The whole thing vibrates, and that goes straight through the mirrors, through your handlebars, through your foot pegs, and it gets old really fast. It's exciting the first couple of times. That's what a real motorcycle should feel like, and that's its whole Dakar pedigree in there. But it's not really that comfortable if you have to accelerate a lot. Okay, there's a lot of vibration going on here and not a lot of downshifting. Come on, Africa Twin. Okay, let's get it out of drive. This is not, maybe riding around in town will be fine, but apart from that little character trait, great little engine. Brilliant fuel economy. Its power delivery is very linear, up to about 5,000-6,000 RPM. From then, you get nothing out of it. And for the 100 horsepower, which Honda has gotten out of it by choice, I'm sure they could have gotten a bit more, but they decided to leave it in this state of untunedness, let's call it that. It really feels like it's a lot more powerful. But in this whole 1 week of riding, never once had I felt that I needed more power out of it. So it's a great workhorse, that's all. For riding in the city, the bike is great. It is very agile, it is very flickable left and right. That 21-inch does wonders in potholes or bumps or the unevenness of the road. And if you go for the DCT version, the automatic version, you're going to have a lot of time left to yourself while you're riding in the city, because it just does everything so well for you. On twisties, on back roads, this was a lot of fun. It truly is a great touring bike. It can easily get up to speed. It's got a great acceleration curve, and it feels very planted down, very stable. On the highway as well, at high speeds, 120, 140. Wind wasn't an issue. That screen is fine. Again, it's just one of those screens that's not brilliant, and it's not the worst that I've ever had. It's fine. No buffeting. In its highest position, I would probably get wind noise from the top of my head upwards. But again, just a very stable bike. It was a lot of fun on the highway as well, weird enough, which is one of my worst liked places to ride a bike. On off-road, however, that's where this bike shone for me. I took it on trails that I know. I take a lot of other bikes on there, and this was one of the easiest one. The Tenere 700, that was also a very easy bike to take on those trails, and this was maybe a little bit more difficult because it's heavier, but it was easy. 21-inch and 18-inch on the rear, great combination for adventure biking, for all-day adventure biking. Suspension, this one has got electronically adjustable, both for preload and for damping. It's a bit on the soft, plushy side, which is good if you like that kind of suspension. Even at its hardest setting, I still found it to be a bit too soft. Great for off-road, not really that amazing for riding on road, and specifically for brake dive. But we'll get into the stuff I don't really like about it a bit later on. All right, electronics and rider aids. It's almost as if somebody handed Honda a list with all electronics that you could fit on a motorcycle, and Honda just ticked everything off. The problem is they just threw it on there in no particular order, and if you get on it the first time, it's just going to be too much for you. The user experience isn't that brilliant, but you do get used to it, because I gotten used to it, Dave's gotten used to it. So it's one of those cases that just you've got a little bit of a learning curve, and then you know exactly where everything is. All right, so you've got 4 riding modes pre-tuned from the factory, and then you've got 2 other usable user tunable ones. And I mean, those are great. You can set one for all your on-road riding, and you can set another for all your off-road riding. It'll remember all your settings. And here we're talking about everything from engine braking, traction control intervention, all those lovely things, even all of your suspension settings, your preload, your damping, and it will remember those based on 3 different profiles as well, like a rider by itself, or a rider with luggage, or a rider with pillion and luggage. You can set different parameters for all of those profiles. With the new Africa Twin, Honda's really become the Android of customization, if I can say that. Everything is extremely customizable on it, and to some this might be a disadvantage instead of advantage. Maybe you want the factory to set everything up for you and you just pick different riding modes. But why are there so many flies here? What is this? And I'm in that same boat with you. I'm also not a fan of too much customization, but with this, it's actually pretty easy to learn it, and the payoff at the end of the day is that you can do a lot more with the bike. So I'm glad Honda made it so customizable. The way they did it maybe isn't the best implementation, because it's not very intuitive, but once you learn how to use it, you'll be fine. The Africa Twin's also got a USB port, unfortunately only one, so you can only pretty much plug your phone in there to charge it for long journeys. I wish it was a dual USB port, but the good news is that it also comes with a 12-volt socket, so you can install one of those very cheap USB adapters on there, and then you can charge everything you want. CarPlay, great feature, amazing to have. Again, it's only usable if you plug your phone with a cable into the bike's USB port. It's not wireless. I wish it was wireless. There are some aftermarket adapters I've seen that you can make it wireless, because Most phones nowadays have wireless charging. You don't need to plug a cable in there. You put a wireless charger on there, and then the phone's not tangled up with cables. So maybe in the future. Great news for Android Auto as well. If you've got an Android, there is an update. If you don't already have it on your bike, there is an update. Go to your dealer, they'll update it free of charge, and then it's Android Auto compatible as well. Well done, Honda. It's got great power delivery. There was no snatchiness. I mean, it's a proper Honda, so no complaints in that department. Looks, again, I don't think this is one of those things that you look at it and you either love or you hate. I think most of us will agree that this is a pretty good looking bike. I especially love the different colors that they put here on the DCT, just to contrast it from the engine a little bit. You know, I love the gold rims, gold forks. Yeah, it goes very well with the black and the golden handlebar as well. Yeah, I like the looks of this bike quite a bit. Hello? I heard voices. Robin Hood, is that you? Robin? Dave? All right, now let's move on to the stuff I didn't like about the bike. And again, this is very opinionated here. Engine for me is the biggest culprit. Again, great when you're cruising, but when you need power out of it, when you're accelerating, it's not very refined. It feels like a rather large two-stroke bike. And again, Dakar. Foot pegs as well, absolute worst position you could put them in, because every time you want to put your feet down at a traffic light somewhere, the foot pegs are in the way. Where your leg is supposed to lie flat on the ground, that's where the foot pegs are. So you either need to put your leg in front or behind it or to the side. None of them very good choices. The seat is just too hard, and it's not the good hard, it's the uncomfortable hard. Now, I've said it many times before, hard seats are good for long distance touring. Soft seats are not, because your butt doesn't really get used to a soft seat, but a good quality hard seat you can ride for 10 hours with no problem. This one is a bad quality hard seat, so I would change that immediately if I got the bike. What else? Brake dive, that would be my last negative point, and excessive brake dive. A little bit of brake dive is not a problem, but even with the suspension at its hardest damping, it's too much. It dives too much when you brake, especially when you have to emergency brake, then it just becomes a boat. The layout of the instrument cluster and of all of the info on the TFT screen, I said you can get used to it quite easily, and you can learn what all the buttons do quite easily, but there are so many much better ways to go ahead and arrange all of these buttons. So I'm really hoping to see an improvement from Honda's side on maybe next year's model. I don't know. If you take a look, you've got the up and down switches are actually buttons, and left and right is a switch. Why would you have that? Your brain would get used to the idea that up, down, left and right would have the same texture, same feeling, but no. As I said, it feels like Honda just threw everything on there, not enough time to actually work it out. And the TFT, you've got so many different ways of arranging the data that you want to see. Again, that customization from Honda really showing up there, but none of the screens, and Honda calls them gold, bronze, and silver, none of them are pretty looking. They're very utilitarian and, I don't know, 90s looking, so I wasn't a fan of that. As far as night riding is concerned on the Africa Twin, the main headlight is just fine, nothing special there. I do wish it had more intensity though. With the high beam on, everything is clearly visible, but we obviously can't ride with the high beam on all of the time. The cornering lights seem to have two stages of intensity, and while making a difference, they just shine too low on the road to be truly useful. But that's about all the negatives that I've got with this bike, and that's actually quite a short list compared to most other bikes, so well done. All right, as usual, you guys have sent in questions, so let's do our Q&A. Is the DCT a real must-have or just another electronic gadget? You're gonna hate this answer because I hate this answer. It depends. It depends on what you want. No, it's not a real must. But if you enjoy the bike changing gears for you, if that's the type of riding that you want to do and have your left hand free most of the time, then yes, it's a real must for you. Personally, I wouldn't pick it, no. DCTs are actually, for the products that Honda offers with DCTs, that percentage is going up at quite a high rate. So about 39%, or almost 40% of all bikes that come with an option of DCT now get sold with DCT. In a couple of years, it'll be 50-50. So people are choosing DCT a lot more nowadays. But no, personally, I would still go with the clutch. Even for off-road riding, there's a lot you can do with the automatic gearbox, and it's actually, let's talk about it for a while. It's actually quite a clever piece of kit. It works with the IMU as well, but it also works with obviously the throttle position, and it tries to anticipate what you're trying to do depending on the riding mode that you're in. When I started using it, I thought it would be just nonsense, but it turned out to be pretty good. It's got 4 different modes that you can put it in. So you've got 6 riding modes in total, but the gearbox has also got 4 different modes. Drive, which pretty much changes gears very quickly and shouldn't be used by anyone anywhere. And then you've got Sport 1, 2 and 3. All of those progressively change gears at higher and higher RPM. Sport 2 seems to be the fan favorite, and that was my favorite as well. If you really want to have a lot of fun and go really fast, Sport 3 will change your gears at very high RPMs. For off-road riding, there's a video that I watched. I suggest you watch it as well. Brett Tax, I think, is the guy's name. He shows you exactly how to ride the Africa Twin with a DCT off-road, and there's a lot of madness going on. You basically have to ride with power always on a little bit, and then you modulate it using the rear brake. Okay, but personally I'd still go for a manual. And it's also got a parking brake, forgot to mention that. It's got its own little parking brake where your clutch would be, because the bike always stops in neutral, so you can't put it in first and leave it there. And that parking brake is a separate mechanical one that has its own brake caliper. Not very powerful, but great for a parking brake. Okay, moving on. Is it worth the Adventure Sports model, or should we just go for the basic setup? Adventure Sports model is more touring oriented. It's more on-road oriented. It's got a lot more toys on it, while the normal standard version, that also comes in those nice, prettier colors, in my opinion, is the more off-road oriented one. The basic one is also lighter. It comes with a smaller fuel tank, but I think what I would miss the most if I was to go for the basic one would be the electronic suspension. I'm a fan of setting all of that electronically and on the fly as well, because if I've got little manual adjustments, I'm never going to do that. So I'm always going to leave it in one position or another. So electronic for me is the way to go. I believe the seat is a lot lower in this model, but are you now forced to look through the screen all of the time? You have to set it up. That's it. When I first picked it up, yeah, I was looking through the screen. It was at its topmost position. The seat was also low, I think. So I was looking through it the whole time. But you play around with the seat, high or low, and you also play around with the adjustability of the screen. You will find a position where it will protect you the most from the wind, and you can also look above it. So no, I'm not gonna complain about the screen, because it wouldn't be fair. It's a pretty much okay screen, no complaints. Wind buffeting, just covered that. Ergonomics DCT touring on this. What are the positives compared to the GS? Haha. What are the positives compared to the GS? It's more fuel efficient. It's clever enough to change gears by itself. If you go for the DCT version, there's nothing like that on the GS. And because it's got larger wheels, it's a lot easier to navigate or to be comfortable on very bad roads. But that's not really a complaint I have with the GS, because it's got that good suspension. So yeah, there's a lot more to talk about the subject. We'll do that in a separate video. Thoughts on whether you should get the Africa Twin or the GS, because it would take forever here. So we'll cover that in a separate video. I just bought the 2020 on DCT, this one. If you have DCT, I'd like to hear your favorite transmission, engine braking and throttle settings. throttle, engine power, maximum engine braking, 2 out of the 3 little notches, and transmission S2. But again, depends where you go. This is what I was most comfortable with for on-road riding, and it worked for me. Does the riding mode have to be reset every time the bike is turned off, then back on? No, riding modes, the moment you set them up, they'll stay on forever. What does reset every single time is your automatic gear. Drive, sport, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so in conclusion, extremely capable bike, both on-road and off-road. I wish it was more comfortable on-road, but at the price point that you're getting it at, it's a lot of value. It comes with a lot of great gear that on other bikes you just pretty much don't get. So this is not a bike that I would pick because it's got great character or it makes you feel amazing because it's got some special X factor. No, I would purely pick it because it comes with great value and that amazing Honda reliability. That's it. Those are boring things to talk about a motorcycle, but that's why I would pick it. All right, let's end it off here. Comments time. If there's anything that I haven't mentioned about the bike and you want to find out, go into the comment section and I'll answer you there. If you've enjoyed the show, give it a big thumbs up. If you think you've learned something new, consider subscribing or becoming one of our Patreons to help us make more of these shows. Cheers, and I'll see you on the next one.